We got to take them seriously, but weather's looking a lot better today, and glad to be back here ready to get this mission launched.
Yeah, and that's just one of the perks of launching off the coast of Cape Canaveral. So you can have beautiful weather all day long, and then in an instant, it can turn to a heavy rainstorm coming in the afternoon. And so our team just has to be poised and ready for any time that there's a scrub or any time that the clouds open up and let us have an optimal launch window.
And this was even more unusual in that we had kind of a longer time in between attempts. Normally we can turn around and launch again the next day, but in this case, even though the launch vehicle and the payload were both ready to go and have been the whole time, we needed to just give a little bit of time for some conflicts to work out on the range, and we're back here today ready to go. And we're actually coming up on a planned hold, which means that as the launch team and the launch clock are getting closer to liftoff, the clock will pause for short periods of time to allow the team to resolve any issues that may occur in the hours leading up to launch.
And if you were listening in last time, you will probably be familiar with launch counts that you might already know. The L minus time refers to the actual time remaining until launch. And the T minus time refers to the time printed on the countdown clock that reflects the hold and is paused for an exact amount of time until the hold is released.
And by building in this time, we give ourselves a higher probability of an on-time liftoff. Today's countdown, which can be seen in the top left corner of your screen, uses the T minus time. And that time stops at T minus 4 minutes, which you can see we have entered the hold, and we are at T minus 4 minutes and holding. And we are still taking that live look at Atlas V on the launch pad. And as the countdown continues, our team is taking the final steps in preparation for liftoff. So we're looking at the rocket. You see the first stage, also known as the rocket's booster stage, which is the large tank on the bottom. That is actually two tanks, one filled up with RP-1 fuel and the other with liquid oxygen. Of course, those two mix in the combustion chamber inside the RD-180. They're burned, and that's what gives the rocket its thrust. The other interesting thing is that liquid oxygen on the outside, because it's so super cold, the outside of the tank frosts over, and that's why you see that bronze tank actually looking white after it's fueled.
Atlas is also equipped with the Centaur upper stage, which drives the payload during the second phase of its flight to its final orbital destination in space. The payload fairing, or PLF, completes the rocket and provides the aerodynamic shape necessary for the climb to space. And as you can see on the upper stage in the PLF, we'll see the logos for Amazon, Atlas, ULA, as well as the American flag. So let's learn a little bit more about how ULA builds the Atlas V rocket.
Engineered in Centennial, Colorado, ULA's Atlas V rocket is built in Decatur, Alabama, and launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida. Once the rocket is manufactured, it travels to Cape Canaveral on ULA's cargo ship, known as Rocket Ship. After arriving in Florida, ULA's launch operations team begins assembling the rocket. Stacking begins with lifting the 107-foot Atlas booster, powered by an RD-180 engine, onto the mobile launch platform. For Amazon missions, 5 solid rocket boosters are attached to the sides of the first stage for additional thrust at liftoff. ULA's ultra-thin stainless steel Centaur upper stage, powered by an RL-10 engine, is then lifted into position. Lastly, the payload fairing, containing the spacecraft, is lifted and mated to the Atlas V rocket. Once assembled, the countdown begins with moving the rocket from the vertical integration facility to the launch pad. The trip to the pad is about 1/3 of a mile. Throughout the 20-minute trip, a payload van leads the move, providing communication with the spacecraft, followed by the ground van providing support to the rocket. The mobile launch platform supplies air conditioning, electrical, and propellant lines to the rocket. Track mobiles at the rear power the convoy, which includes an environmental control system providing air conditioning to the payload and rocket, as well as a backup generator. Atlas arrives at the pad for fueling and other final preparations, and once fueled, weighs nearly 1.3 million pounds and stands 205 feet tall.
Today's mission is just the start of ULA launches to deliver Amazon's Kuiper satellites to orbit. Let's learn more about Project Kuiper and what they've been doing to prepare for offering internet connectivity from space.
It all starts with a countdown. But a countdown to what exactly? 6 years ago, we took on a journey to build the most advanced and the most modern communication system in the world.
There are almost 3 billion people that don't have high-speed connectivity.
Imagine if they had the ability to be connected just like you and I do, what they could do, what contributions they could make.
This mission is ambitious for a truly worthy cause. It's going to impact communities that cannot be reached with fiber traditional communications. The solution really has to be from space.
You can think of Project Kuiper as a three-part system: the satellite constellation, the customer terminal, and just as critically, the ground network and software that ultimately deliver connectivity. We have set out to design the most advanced satellite network ever built, and we have created the whole thing in-house at Amazon. You need just about every technology area to contribute to build the satellite: the propulsion system, the solar arrays, the silicon, the phased array antennas, the optical inter-satellite links.
The team has to be innovative, agile, resilient as we're moving very, very fast. Building, testing, developing in-house has been an extraordinary ingredient.
When we first proposed Project Kuiper internally, one of the first questions was, can you produce an affordable customer terminal? We knew that was going to be the linchpin of our system.
The big breakthrough for us was combining transmit and receive antennas into a single aperture. No one had ever done this in the K-band, but let us pack a ton of performance into a really compact, really low-cost design. We're going to build tens of millions of these antennas, and we are well on our way. The design is done. We're now in the factory manufacturing it.
We talk about the satellites and constellation, but Kuiper is a satellite constellation being operated as a network across hundreds of ground gateway terminals.
Our ground network is spread out all over the world, and each site connects back to AWS. We already have a bunch of these sites installed everywhere from Australia to Germany, and more of them are coming online every month.
There's a big difference between launching 2 satellites and launching 3,000 satellites.
The past couple of years, my team has really been focused on how to achieve scale. Our own dedicated payload processing facility gives us the ability to control our own destiny. We've got the capacity to integrate up to 5 satellites per day and launch 3 simultaneous campaigns. Heavy lift rockets have higher performance, so we can take more satellites to orbit on any given launch. All of our heavy lift launch partners have had a successful first flight, so that's been a pretty exciting thing for us to see because we made those investments years in advance.
All of the pieces have come together to support that first launch, and the next one, and the one after that. It might not all go perfectly, but we have an incredible commitment to this project and an incredible team committed to its mission. All roads lead here, a countdown to launch. And with more than 80 missions planned, we're just getting started.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T-minus 4 minutes and holding. Following liftoff, viewers watching the launch from Florida and points north and east might be able to see the Atlas V in flight. To get a closer look at this visibility map, check out at ULA Launch on social media.
Very cool. Of course, everybody thinks of seeing a rocket launch right here close to the pad, but even those all up the east coast of the United States will be able to see that light streak across the sky with an evening launch like we have tonight. Taking another look at the launch pad, all 27 of those Kuiper satellites tucked nicely in the 77-foot payload fairing there of our Atlas V rocket.
And this Atlas V rocket is actually our 551 configuration, so it's a 5-meter payload fairing with 5 SRBs, and that's going to bring a lot of power and a lot of thrust to the rocket, allowing it to exit Earth's atmosphere and get to our orbital insertion in our low Earth orbit destination.
That's right, with all 5 solids and the RD-180, 2.7 million pounds of thrust at liftoff for this largest Atlas V configuration that we fly today. maximizing the payload capacity to get as many satellites on orbit as we can tonight. So pretty excited to see this.
As we get closer to the opening of our launch window, let's have a look at the weather forecast the launch team just received from Space Launch Delta 45 Weather Officer Brian Belson.
Yes, Brian is not on with us tonight on another assignment, but he did hand us the forecast. We do have a probability of violating launch constraints between 25 and 35%. It actually starts out lower at the beginning of the window, and then at the 20% and increases up to 35% as we make our way through the window. Ground winds are 17 knots out of the east, and temperature is 73 degrees. Primary concern for launch today is cumulus clouds, anvil clouds, and surface electric fields. So we are watching the weather very closely, as we always do. As we mentioned earlier, those weather rules are just as important as any other flight rule, but this weather today looks much better than our first attempt.
That's right, Caleb. And these weather rules are designed to keep the vehicle safe from wind, lightning, and other potential weather risks. And we mentioned earlier about measuring the surface electricity, and that's basically the smarter way for saying that we are watching the lightning and the potential for it to be in this area. One thing that we always notice here when you get a live look at Atlas on the pad is that you have 4 lightning towers situated around Atlas. And so that basically is there as a mitigation strategy. If there is lightning in the area, it's supposed to conduct through the towers instead of hitting our rocket and our very precious payload.
Very good. And you can get a better view of the clearer skies that we have. Still some clouds in the area, but still proceeding toward launch with acceptable weather right now.
SRB ignition enabled.
Box 2, verify CISA purge flowing GN2 to the CISA.
Verified.
OSM, verify the FCO, ROC, and OSM whole power switches are in the proceed position.
Ready to proceed.
RLM, verify red line monitor event table in a correct configuration for terminal count. Verified. RC, verify solar radiation acceptable for launch.
Verified. Launch on time verified.
Roger. LC, switch to the ready position. All steps are complete prior to the status check.
We remain in the planned 15-minute hold as we continue towards liftoff. In a few moments, ULA launch conductor Scott Barney will pull the team for the final go to pick up the launch countdown. The launch coordinator conducts the launch team during countdown similar to how a symphony conductor is coordinating an orchestra.
28 engineers are pulled to confirm the rocket is ready to proceed. This is the final status check for all Atlas vehicle systems, ground systems, and the payload, as well as the U.S. Space Force Eastern Range. Let's listen in as he performs the pull.
-8 minutes. -7 minutes. Status check to proceed with terminal count. Atlas systems, propulsion.
Go.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
Water.
Go.
Centaur systems, propulsion. Go. Pneumatics. Go. LO2.
Go.
LH2.
Go.
House gas.
Go.
Electrical systems, airborne.
Go.
Ground.
Go.
Facility.
Go.
RFFTS.
Go.
Flight control.
Go.
GCQ.
Go.
Op support.
Go.
Com.
Go.
Availables.
Go.
ECS.
Go.
Redline monitor. Go. Quality.
Go.
Op safety manager.
Go.
ULA safety officer. Go. Vehicle System Engineer.
Go.
Anomaly Chief.
Go.
Range Coordinator.
Go.
Launch Director.
You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count. ALC, verify T0 is set for 2301 Zulu.
Verified.
Polling is complete and the team is go for launch.
From now until liftoff, launch conductor Scott Barney and the launch team will continue reporting the final steps in today's countdown.
This includes verifying propellant levels and pressures in the booster and Centaur fuel tanks, as well as arming the ordnance for ignition, separation, and flight termination systems.
At T-minus 1 minute, the range confirms it is in a green condition for launch, assuring there are no nearby constraints like boats, planes, or weather, and that all tracking systems are operational. At T-minus 25 seconds, you'll hear Go Atlas, Go Centaur, Go Kuiper. This is the final status check for the rocket and the payload.
To dampen the acoustic shock at liftoff, at T-minus 6 seconds, the launch pad's water deluge system activates, followed a few seconds later by the RD-180 booster engine ignition. Then, after seeing Atlas lift off, you'll hear flight commentator Sarah Bailey Glasgow providing the updates as the rocket ascends. So, as you might have noticed, voices playing in the background of this broadcast, that is actually voices being played on our Channel 1 broadcast, which is our internal net system. So hearing that provides a unique commentary that you normally don't see in this industry, and it kind of gives you a feel of what our exact engineers feel when they are sitting on console here. So we are listening to that together live.
Yeah, very cool to be hearing Channel 1, the launch conductor, as well as the team as we proceed into these final minutes prior to launch. You'll hear them working through all those final steps leading up to the T0, which is now 1 minute past the hour at 7:01 Eastern Time.
Yeah, and thinking about how big this moment is and how excited we are to partner with Amazon, that is about to bring a constellation that's basically going to change the world in terms of internet connectivity. And it's really cool that we're doing this on Atlas, which is the OG of rockets. And Atlas has launched so many unique missions and unique payloads and set so many records in the space industry. So it's really cool to see a payload that's both going to share on Atlas and Vulcan as we ride into this future of ULA together.
Really is cool to launch this new era, and we were so excited about talking about Atlas. We went right past the T-4 hold release, so you can see that that hold is released and the clock is counting. We are at just about T-3 minutes and 18 seconds.
After liftoff, ULA's Atlas V rocket will fly northeast from Space Launch Complex 41. Here's a look at today's flight.
Following final confirmation of rocket readiness, the RD-180 engine and 5 GEM-63 solid rocket boosters ignite to produce more than 2 million pounds of thrust, lifting ULA's Atlas V rocket away from the pad. Shortly after liftoff, the rocket begins a pitchover to attain the proper flight path while minimizing the dynamic pressure it experiences during flight. Atlas then reaches Mach 1, the speed of sound. The addition of 5 solid rocket boosters, or SRBs, precisely augment the liftoff thrust of the Atlas V, giving it the power to deliver the payload to orbit. With their propellant expired approximately 96 seconds into ascent, the SRBs burn out, followed by jettison. Atlas's guidance system then begins steering towards the precise target in space. Amazon's Kuiper satellites are encapsulated inside a 5-meter diameter payload fairing, which provides protection to the spacecraft during ascent. After crossing the Kármán line, entering space, the payload fairing is jettisoned. With the majority of propellant expended fighting against the force of gravity, the RD-180 engine shuts down and the booster stage separates. The rocket then begins second stage flight, weighing less than 7% of what it did at liftoff. ULA's high-performance Centaur, with its RL-10 engine, ignites, powering the upper stage and spacecraft into a circular low-Earth orbit. The first burn comes to an end with engine shutdown, followed by Centaur orienting into the proper position to release Amazon's Project Kuiper satellites to begin building their low-Earth orbit satellite broadband network.
For For those of you just joining us, I'm Caleb Weiss here with Britt Porcelli for today's live coverage of ULA's Atlas V launch of Amazon's Project Kuiper satellites.
At this time, the team is not working any issues, and we're proceeding towards our liftoff at 7:01 p.m. Eastern.
Range green.
And we just came inside of T-minus 1 minute.
Stable at step 3.
Verify ECS reduced for launch.
Verified.
Status check.
Go Atlas. Go Centaur.
Go KA-01.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. We have ignition, 2, 1.
Ignition and full thrust. 5 good SRBs.
And liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket, carrying satellites for Amazon's Project Kuiper internet constellation, marking the start of a new chapter in low Earth orbit satellite
You is
connectivity.
now on closed loop control. Engaging first throttle segment. And we've completed our pitch program. Engine operating parameters continue to look good. And we've successfully completed our roll program. Hydraulics continue to operate nominally. Mach 1, Atlas V is now supersonic. Body rates continue to look good. Engine continues to operate as expected. Throttling back up.
You are hearing Sarah Bailey Glasgow providing launch vehicle ascent data.
We are now 7 miles in altitude, moving at 1,700 miles an hour. Now passing 1 minute into flight. Vehicle continues to pass through the center of the rain track as expected. SRBs continue to operate nominally. Throttling down, engine continues to burn as expected. Body rates continue to look good. Vehicle is now 1/2 of its liftoff weight. Max Q passing through maximum dynamic pressure. Coming up on SRB burnout. And we have good indication of SRB burnout, 10 seconds from SRB jettison. Throttling back up. And we have good indication of jettison of all 5 SRBs. Engine continues to burn normally. We are now 32 miles in altitude, moving at 4,000 miles an hour.
We just heard confirmation
Coming
of
up
the
on 2
solid
minutes
rocket
in
booster
flight.
jettison. These additional motors augmented the thrust at liftoff to give Atlas rocket an extra boost to reach its circular low Earth orbit destination. These SRBs are called GEM 63s, which stand for graphite epoxy motor, and are 63 inches in diameter. The most obvious difference you'll see between Atlas and Vulcan SRBs is the nose cone shape. Vulcan has a conical nose cone, whereas Atlas has a duckbill or O-drive shape. We're coming up here on our next mission event, jettison of the payload fairing. Let's listen in to Sarah.
Continues to move down the center of the range track and is moving at 5,300 miles an hour. Body rates continue to operate nominally. And we are now holding acceleration at 2.5 Gs in preparation for payload fairing jettison. And we have activated the Centaur reaction control system. And we have passed the Kármán line. We have exited Earth's atmosphere. Vehicle is now 1/4 of its liftoff weight. And we have good indication of payload fairing jettison. And good indication of CFLR deck jettison. Engine continues to operate as expected.
Flight commentator Sarah Bailey Glasgow just called out
Body rates
confirmation
continue to
of
operate.
payload fairing
Body rates
jettison.
continue to look good.
The composite fairing protects the spacecraft as it pushes through the harshest parts of the atmosphere. Next, we'll hear callouts for cutoff of the Atlas first stage engine and separation of the booster stage, followed by ignition of ULA Centaur's second stage.
These events occur when the first stage has escaped Earth's atmosphere, getting above the Kármán line and into space. The Centaur upper stage with the Kuiper satellites attached then takes over on a trajectory to a precise location in space. Let's just listen in as we approach these milestones.
Body rates are smooth. Hydraulics continue to look good. 30 seconds to pico. Boost phase chill down in progress. Temperatures are operating as expected. PU has gone to open loop control as expected. Engine continues to operate nominally. And we've completed boost phase chill down as expected. And we have good indication of booster engine cutoff. And we have good indication of Centaur separation. Restart on fuel and locks, good staging. Ignition and full thrust. RL10 is running nominally. Steering has been enabled as expected. Engines are continuing to operate as expected.
This is Atlas Mission Control at T+5 minutes. We just heard flight commentator Sarah Bailey Glasgow confirm the successful completion of today's early milestones in today's flight, and all systems continue to operate nominally. So what we saw today, we had a nice smooth countdown, beautiful weather, beautiful liftoff, and Atlas V is on its way to orbit to take those 27 Kuiper satellites, put them on their way, and really start this new era in internet connectivity. So Atlas is on its way to making history again, Britt.
And that's what you love to see, Caleb. You love to see a nominal launch, not working any issues, and the weather window work perfectly and open up right for us at the beginning of our launch window. So as we wrap up today's live coverage, we wanted to say thank you to all of you who have tuned in on today's flight and remind everybody that for more information about ULA and the Atlas V rocket, please visit ulalaunch.com and subscribe to our ULA Launch YouTube channel. And before we sign off, let's take one last look at today's liftoff. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. We have ignition, 2, 1.
Ignition and full thrust. 5 good SRBs.
And liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket, carrying satellites for Amazon's Project Kuiper internet constellation, marking the start of a new chapter in low Earth orbit satellite connectivity.
PU is now on closed loop control, engaging first throttle segment. And we've completed our pitch program. Engine operating parameters continue to look good. And we've successfully completed our roll program. Hydraulics continue to operate nominally. Mach 1, Atlas V is now supersonic.